Women's University. Good afternoon, dear students, alumni, and friends, and of course, our school officials. Welcome, everyone, and welcome to the Conrado Benitez Hall. Yan, nung panahon ko, itong hall na to, we know this as the social hall. Marami siyang paintings all over, and also it has a grand piano. And also a lot of stories about it. So anyway, okay, before we continue, I just have some announcements to make. First, that this whole activity, the entire activity is being recorded, and it's also being streamed live on our PWU fan page, FB fan page. Okay, and then also we will have an open forum after the lecture, and we will have, for those who registered, you will be emailed an evaluation form, and we encourage you to answer and submit. Okay? Lahat ng mga register online, please see to it that you participate in the evaluation. Okay, now we can start. So I will ask everyone to please rise for our national anthem, and then remain standing for the invocation.
Shall we pray? Allow us to approach your throne of grace as we ask for your mercy and forgiveness. Please join us in this gathering and grant our hearts to follow you. May we find peace and the ultimate attitude of gratitude for all that we say and do. Gently awaken our spirit and challenge us to obey. Grant us wisdom to apply good works from the heart. Give us understanding and bring back the joy of salvation to us all. Truly, honor and glory belong to our risen Savior, Jesus Christ, our Lord. Honor and praise to God the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Okay, you may sit down. Okay, thank you, Evie. That was Evie Havalera. Okay, to officially welcome everyone, I'd like to call our president, the president of PWU of Philippine Women's University, Mr. Marco M. Benitez, to give us his message.
Thank you very much. To the PWU Board of Trustees, of course, led by our ever-supportive chairperson, Ms. Vicky Amaling Ansales. Of course, our dynamic, well-loved, and eloquent speaker, Dr. Boy Abunda. to the members of the PW Alumni Foundation, led by President Vivian Talisayon, and our ever faithful alumni here with us today, dear faculty, students, ladies and gentlemen, including those watching on social media, good afternoon. First of all, let me welcome all of you back here at PWU, especially for our alumni friends. This is the 4th edition of the Quarterly Alumni Lecture Series, spearheaded by the PWU Alumni Foundation Incorporated, but the first one held in person and on campus, here at the Conrado Benitez Hall at PWU. You will notice that there are many improvements being done around the campus, starting with the repainting of our facade, the renovation of the PWU canteen, the NBB hall, the sports locker rooms, the botanical garden on the 2nd floor, the retrofitting and upgrading of various classrooms, among others. We have been fortunate that the 2.5 years of the pandemic, after the initial confusion and adjustment phase of the first few months, allowed the university, our faculty, personnel, and students to adapt and capitalize on the virtual mode of learning and working. By investing in technology and the training of our faculty and personnel, we have been able to maintain and in many cases, I may say, improve on our standard of education even while online. Thus, the empty halls and classrooms during those 2.5 years became an opportune time to invest and upgrade our already outdated facilities. As you can see, we still have many ways to go. In some cases, it is a continuing, never-ending process, but slowly but surely we will get there. Another important blessing that came about during the pandemic, and this one I will not tire of repeating, has been the increased presence of our alumni. I would say this was the result of various factors. The ease of communication and gathering online made possible by Zoom, Google Meet, Facebook, etc. The reinvigorated efforts of our alumni chapters led by the PW Alumni Foundation, the Alumni Association, and the various chapters here and abroad, coordinated by our own Alumni Relations Office led by Ruth Peñano. The eagerness and enthusiasm by which our alumni came to the support of the university and our students during the most difficult times of the pandemic have been truly inspiring. As an aside, I attended the alumni homecoming of our Nursing Alumni Association in the US and had also met with the Southern California and Nevada alumni chapters. And all of them are eager to contribute and continue supporting the university and our students financially or with their time and efforts. This alumni lecture series is another example of an initiative that stems from the desire to reconnect, share knowledge, and inspire our community by alumni who have become role models of success in their respective fields, of whom we have an abundance. Thus, not only has it been financially that we have felt the impact of this important segment of our PW community, our alumni, but in areas such as this, your generosity and support have become examples of the lived PWU values we would want our students to emulate. I thank Dr. Boy, who is also one of our trustees on the PWU board, for being with us here today despite his immensely busy schedule. More importantly, for what will surely be valuable life lessons he will impart through his personal and professional experiences. It is inspiring to see that despite his stature and success, he remains humble and grounded in his principles and values and is committed to sharing his time and knowledge with the hope of inspiring others. On a personal note, he and my late mom Susie go way back, even before he became the king of talk. And I will always remember what my mom would say when referring to her dear friend. She'd say, "Look at Boy, he never wants to stop learning and enriching himself because he knows that in the showbiz industry, one day you are famous, the next day you have already been forgotten." I think maybe that was the inspiration for him pursuing his master's and PhD here at PWU. I guess that is true in almost any industry or profession we belong to. It doesn't matter what we have achieved in life, we must never settle nor stop improving. I'm sure his talk today will be another example of this mindset. So to close, I would like to thank once again our PWU Alumni Foundation, the PWU Alumni Association, and all of our alumni for efforts and initiatives such as what we have here today. You remain our constant source of inspiration and role models for success for all of us here at PWU. We look forward to more and more events such as this one. Thank you very much and good afternoon.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sir Marco. That was a very hope-inspiring message, and it makes us look and see a better future for our university. So anyway, before we go to our main activity, I just want to give you a brief background, especially those who are attending for the first time, and also those who attended the last time but had poor connectivity. This lecture series has been started by the PWU Alumni Foundation in the hopes of highlighting the university's brand of excellence in education. And at the same time, they wanted more people, especially students and alumni, to gain more knowledge and information. So they did this by inviting esteemed alumni who has become famous and expert in their chosen fields. They were invited to speak and share their stories, their experiences, and well, fortunately, their goal has been met. This alumni series lectures has actually become fairly successful. And so now, that's why today we are on our fourth and final lecture for the year. Okay, and after a long hiatus from live events, you know, we're here face to face, and I'm sure excited that we are face to face. And at the same time, I'm sure you're also excited that we are face to face with our guest speaker. Okay, but before that, I'll go back to that. Okay, but before that, we want to have a picture taking first, Ruth. So all of those who are at those in your seats, may we ask you to. The reason for this is because our president, Sir Marco, will be leaving in a while, so we want him to be in the photo. Okay, so may we request everyone to please leave your seats for a while, and we can all like just form a row here for the photo shoot. Photo shoot. It's okay. You're forgiven. We're looking forward to the talk anyway. So please, everyone. Thank you. Don't be shy. Baka the mic, yung mic stand, maybe you can put it. Okay, thank you everyone. Yan, just find their space. Yeah, find your space. Ano ba, dapat, can we compact? Remove your mask, don't breathe. Okay, find the space. Yung mic stand, okay. Ano, kuha? Oh, make it panoramic. Okay, for the photographer. Okay, thank you. Back to your seats. Thank you. Thank you. Okay. Anyway, for today, As for our guest speaker, he's one of our notable alumni, and especially in the entertainment industry, and he is an icon in every right. So today we will have the privilege of listening in on his talk, on his story, and maybe he would tell us a bit about his journey on to becoming the king of talk. Okay? So, hindi ko na patatagalin pa. Ang tanong ko na lang sa inyo, handa na ba kayong humarap sa salamin? Alam niyo ba yun? Okay. So anyway, I'd like to call on Miss Vicky Amalingan Sales. She is the chairperson of our Board of Trustees to formally introduce our guest speaker. Vicky.
Arcel. Good afternoon. Today, I would like to introduce to you someone very special to my heart. I have had the honor to know him because of our very own alumni network. He has, however, become like a son to me. He has supported greatly our university, as well as foundations that serve the marginalized and the underprivileged. Indeed, a man with such a golden heart. He has not denied me in the times I needed his help. He is always there, always with an effusive smile. Let me tell you of his story. A story about a storyteller. It starts out ordinary. A simple boy born and raised in a nipa hut in the windswept Borongan Easter summer. Trained by a father to dream, nurtured by a mother to listen with his heart. Elementary was at the Borongan Pilot Elementary School. High school was spent at the seminary. There, he was exposed to reading and learned the rudiments of discourse. His story is replete with twists and turns. He had to stop school at Ateneo when he studied business management due to his father's tragic passing. This brought him to face the bitter realities of life. He became a salesman, a tour guide, a theater stagehand, and soon after, without him knowing where he was all going, a public relations director for the Manila Metropolitan Theater. From theater, he moved to television, where he has since led a flourishing career. in broadcast media. He became recognized as a multi-awarded host and producer. He hosts television shows on ABS-CBN, Tonight with Boy Abunda, Inside the Cinema, and the 11 Asian Television Award Best Talk Show awardee, The Bottom Line. He is a formidable endorser, a public relations authority, a brand and creative development leader, and of course, a respected talent manager. A mentor and critical thinker. His name and brand have become synonymous with deep, unwavering trust within the worlds of entertainment, business, and public affairs. This man's story, however, does not end here. Nothing, not even the stripes that has earned him, has ever stopped him from further learning and discovering. He earned a master's degree in communication arts and eventually a doctoral degree in social development from the Philippine Women's University. He has taken extensive seminars on international relations and public diplomacy under the tutelage of Ambassador Rosario Manalo. He is Arts Ambassador for the National Commission for Culture and the Arts, a former champion of the United Nations Population Fund, a service ambassador for the Bureau of Jail Management and Penology. And yet, this man still has so much more stories to tell. He's traveling the world, talking and lecturing, sharing stories, and exchanging thoughts with people from all walks of life. He teaches at the Empower You program of the University of Hong Kong and at the Boy Abunda Talk workshop that covers public speaking, hosting, interviewing, and the question and answer. He has strong, steadfast beliefs about living a just life, free from judgment and stigma, about living a life free from fear, about living a life that recognizes the unifying value of kindness. Hence, his founding that Make Your Nanay Proud Foundation and the creation of inspirational books such as It's Like This and Nanay's Gay Boy. His stories challenge, intrigue, and trigger. His stories educate and inspire. His stories bear the soul. Today, together with each one in this room, with each listening ear, with each open heart, he begins yet another beautiful, fruitful chapter in this continuing story. Friends and alumni, the storyteller, Dr. Boy Abunda.
Maraming salamat po. Can I try your mic? Mic test. There. Magandang hapon po sa lahat ng mga narito at mga kasama ho natin sa iba't ibang parte ng mundo. Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat. Thank you for bearing with me. First, I apologize. I was late. I am the reason why we had to have that picture taking ahead of the talk. Marco has an appointment, a commitment. Pero maraming salamat for staying. Thank you. Napaka-formal at napakatahimik at hindi ko alam kung inaantok or but thank you for being here. Means a lot. Maraming salamat. Thank you very much for being here. And like the lovely couple from Hawaii just said, boy, we came over because we wanted to see you personally. We traveled all the way from Hawaii to see you. And I told them I would love to travel to Hawaii just to see you. Maraming salamat. Let me begin by sharing with you some lines from my favorite poetess, Maya Angelou. It's called Our Grandmothers. I got random lines from the poem. Our grandmothers. She sent them away underground over land in coaches and shoeless. When you learn, teach. When you get, give. As for me, I shall not be moved. Into the crashing sound, into wickedness, she cried, no one, no, nor no 1,000,000 ones dare deny me God. I go forth along and stand as 10,000. Centered on the world stage, she sings to her loves and beloveds, to her foes and detractors, however I am perceived and deceived, however my ignorance and conceits, lay aside your fears that I will be undone, for I shall not be moved. I had to read those lines because I'd like to open this talk with a remembrance of 3 powerful women who affected my life in a way that I wouldn't be here today without them. Just like the grandmother of the great poetess Maya Angelou. Tatlong babae po na humulma, who shaped the boy Abunda that you know today. Unang-una ang aking ina, my mother. She was center of my life. Nanay, in life and in death, is my lodestar. Hanggang ngayon, siya yung moral compass ko. Pag ako'y nagdidesisyon, sinasabi ko, ano kayang sasabihin ng nanay pag ginawa ko ito? Ngayong hapon magagalit yun dahil late ho ako. And I offer no excuses. I don't. Sa totoo yun, kagagalitan ako. My mother was a public school teacher for 41 years, 11 months, and 2 days. She taught grade 1 pupils. Yun ang ganyang pagkakasabi. Nanay was a formidable woman. She was a strong woman. She was indomitable. Isa sa mga itinuro ng nanay ko, yung konsepto ng unconditional love na madalas natin naririnig among family members. Unconditional love because you love without conditions. Pero merong parati sinasabi ang aking nanay na agree ho ako. Unconditional love is giving love unconditionally, without conditions. But unconditional love does not give anyone permission to inflict pain on anyone who is in that relationship. I'll say that again. When you give unconditional love, hindi nangangahulugan na may karapatan kang saktan ang minamahal mo. That's what Nana used to say. So every time I hear people say, you know, the love of a parent, the love of a son or a daughter is unconditional love. Totoo yun. But we have to be reminded that inflicting pain is not part of the package. Naririnig ko ang nanay noon pag nagdadasal pag may sakit ako. And I'm sure this is a familiar prayer to many of us. Lord, give me the pain of my child. Who says that but a mother? Lord, ibigay niyo po yung paghihirap ng aking anak. Who says that but a mother? And I will not forget nanay because of that very important lesson. Second, naalala ko, I was doing not the Bottom Line, but Private Conversations with Boy Abunda, which was the show I did before the Bottom Line. Naalala ko dahil that became a very important show to me. Backstory lamang po. I moved to ABS-CBN in 1999. Were you born in 1999? Hindi pa. Okay. That was a lovely time. There were no bashers. In 1999, I moved to ABS-CBN. I was doing the entertainment show, The Buzz. I was doing The Buzz. Naalala ko, I remember the first week I did The Buzz. After I did the show, I went to the office of the president of ABS-CBN then, Freddie Garcia. I had moved from Channel 7 to Channel 2. So I went to the office of Freddie Garcia. He had American visitors. I will not forget this story. I went up to his office and barged into that meeting, as I would usually do. I know it was not a very formal meeting. So sabi ko, Freddie, just 2 minutes. Sabi niya, okay, I was introduced as American. This is Boy Abunda, he's a host, etc. I said, I'm sorry, but I have to do this in front of you. I said, Freddie, I need another show. That's another lesson. When you want something, when you need something, sometimes you don't wait for it, you ask for it. Okay? So I went to Freddie and said, Freddie, bigyan mo naman ako ng isa pang show. I want to do a talk show. I want to do a conversation show. Sabi niya, why? Why do you have to do a conversation show? Sabi ko, gusto ko malaman ng audiences natin, ng ABS-CBN, na marunong ako mag-Ingles. Totoo po ito. Sabi ko, because the Buzz was not as challenging as it was, because I did entertainment shows. Even if I did late evening shows in GMA7, but I had not done a conversation show. And Freddie stared at me, and he knew I was serious. I was serious. So, he lifted his phone. Wala pa masyadong, well, meron ng mga cell phones, but he dialed the number of Jake Maderazo, who was then Vice President for News of ABS-CBN. Sabi niya, Jake, nandito si Boy Abunda. Mukhang hindi aalis sa opisina ko pag hindi natin binigyan ito ng show. So, sabi niya, you know, Boy, it would be nice if you do something like, he gave the title, why don't you do Private Conversations with Boy Abunda? And I did Private Conversations with Boy Abunda. And my first guest was the New Age philosopher Deepak Chopra. Sabi ko talaga noon, did I deserve, you know, an initial guest as big as Deepak Chopra? He was traveling around the world because he was promoting his book. And he could not come to the studio. I had to go to the Shangri-La Makati to do that interview. I was doing it live. I was doing Private Conversations live. And binasa ko lahat ng libro ni Deepak Chopra. I familiarized myself with his philosophy, and I went to the Shangri-La and did the interview. But here's the story. I was fidgety. Hindi ako masyado kinakabahan as a person. Malakas ang loob ko. Ang puhunan ko ay lakas ng loob. I have nothing but bravado. I have nothing but bravado, in a good way. So I reviewed. I was ready for my conversation. Deepak Chopra, I had to say this story because I was late today. And I'm saying this now all over the world. Mr. Deepak Chopra was late. So he was one of the most celebrated New Age philosophers, and he was late. It was a live show, and I waited patiently. I waited patiently, and who cannot wait for the great Deepak Chopra? When he sat in front of me, he said, I apologize, I am late because I could not find my belt. I said, really? Okay, so he fixed himself. He was with his wife. I started the interview. Welcome to Private Conversations with Boy Abunda. My first guest, Deepak Chopra. And I remember my first question. How does a New Age philosopher feel when he loses his belt? And the rest is history. So I just had to tell you that story because one of the episodes of Private Conversations was a conversation I had with a celebrity where I had to share my story about my father. Ang tatay ko po was a high school graduate. He was unable to go to college. I mean, he had some college subjects in our town college, but because of poverty, he could not go to college. He was a good man. He read books. He was a powerful speaker. In that conversation, I remember I shared the story that tatay was born out of wedlock. Anak sa labas ang aking ama. And I had to deal with my own demons. I had to deal with my own story as a person. Sabi ko, ang tatay ko, ang tawag noon sa probinsya, medyo masakit. Pejorative yung word na anak sa pagkabastardo. I could not say that before that interview. It was something that took a lot of struggle within me to be able to tell the story of my father. But finally, in that particular interview, I said it. I said the story. I shared the story of my father. Hindi ko alam nanay was watching. Hindi ko alam. It was a late evening talk show. And I didn't know that nanay was watching. The next day, she was very quiet. And when nanay was quiet, that meant she was displeased. So, nung kinaumagahan, that time I still had breakfast. Today, these days, my breakfast is at 6 in the evening. Times have changed. I have New York time. During breakfast, sabi ng nanay, I want to talk to you. Sanay ang nanay, parang teacher. I want to talk to you because you hurt me last night. Naiiyak naman ako. And sabi niya, I didn't understand why you had to tell your story. So ako, every time nanay was serious, I would be quiet. Hindi ako sumasagot until the very end of her life. Dahil meron akong paniniwala na pag sumagot ang isang anak sa magulang, lalo nang mataas ang boses at pabalang, pupunta ka ng impyerno. Totoo ho yun. Yan ang paniniwala ko. So every time nanay would get mad, I would be quiet. And that morning was not an exception. I listened. And I knew I hurt my mother. At hindi ko makakalimutan ang kanyang sinabi sa akin. In her context, not in social development context, not in political context, in the context of my mother. Sabi niya sa akin, hindi lahat ng totoo sinasabi. Lalo na pag ang totoo ay nakakasakit. Meaning, what I learned from my mother that night, that morning was, even if I live, even if my job requires me to do conversations and talk, there are times and there are things that you keep to yourself. And it took a while for me to understand. It took a while. And she said, do not impose yourself on others. My Confucian saying that goes, do not impose anything on others that you wouldn't impose on yourself. But nanay was simply saying, do not impose yourself on others. Kung sino ka, have peace with yourself. But who you are cannot be the other person. It took again another while for me to understand that, but nanay made a lot of sense. She made a lot of sense. She's the first woman who shaped me to be who I am today. The next one is the legendary Conching Sunico. Sa inyong mga bata, Tita Conching was called the Duyen of Manila's 400. She was the social of socials. Actually, ang bahay ni Tita Conching is a stone's throw away from here. Very close to this place. Diyan lamang sa Nakpil. And Tita had a different story. That's where Susie, Marcos' mom, and I became brothers and sisters. Before I met Tita Conching, I was roaming the streets of Manila. Before I met the Grand Lady, I slept in the benches of Luneta. Before I met Tita Conching, I sold encyclopedias. I sold fire extinguishers. I opened doors of restaurants until I found my way to the theater where she was executive director. I remember because I started at the theater as a production assistant. As a production assistant. And assistant stage manager was the title. Assistant ng lahat, tagatawag ng artista, tagaayos ng mga damit. I made sure my props, my costumes backstage were fixed. I would leave the theater at 3, 4 o'clock in the morning because I wanted to be the best production assistant there was. Hindi ko alam kung napapanood niyo ang YouTube channel ko. Just to ad-lib, I did an interview with Amy Marcos, Senator Amy Marcos, who I met during my time when I was in the theater. I knew her because she did Trojan Women, where she played Cassandra, and she did other plays at the Metropolitan Theater. In my interview with her a couple of months ago, these were her words. Sabi niya, "Oh boy, naalala kita, alalay ka namin." And I took that with pride. Oo, alalay ako ng lahat. Pag may kailangan ng tubig, tumatakbo ako. Pag may kailangan ng perdible, tumatakbo ako. And I did it with dignity. I did my job with pride. When I was doing my job at the theater, as a production assistant, until I became director for public relations, what Tita Conching did for me was she made me believe that I was worthy, even at a time in my life when I felt I wasn't. But she kept on saying, "You have worth. Work hard. You have worth." And wherever you are, Tita, I know you're in heaven, thank you very much for all that you were to me. I didn't understand, and I still don't understand even today, why she was very kind. Let me go to the third lady, Tita Helen Benitez. I worked for Tita Helen in, was that 84? 84. Were you born in 84? Hindi ko alam, but Marco's dad was a very good friend of mine, Noel. And I just found myself in the presence of the great Helena Benitez. And when I was asked if I could write speeches, I don't say no. I said yes. I remember I was in the car with Tita Helen, and we were drafting a speech she was supposed to deliver in one of the places in Cavite. She was running for Congress in the Batasang Pambansa elections during the time. So I was writing, and I was editing, I was writing. But I'll be very honest, I didn't realize the grandness of Tita Helen until much later. I knew of Helena Benitez, but I didn't know her then the way I know her now. So I wrote speeches, I organized the entertainment of Tita Helen's campaign, I had engagements, I had conversations with her, and I was in awe. What did Tita Helen do for me? She made me believe that for as long as I put my heart into any endeavor, the possibilities are infinite. Dito sa entabladong ito, binigyan ako ni Tita Helen ng solo graduation for my masteral degree. Salamat, Tita Helen. When I defended my masteral thesis, she didn't have to be here, but she came. Sabi ko, "Tita, kaya ko to. Baka sabihin nila, pinapasa ako dahil nandito ka." And she kept on talking to me about it. Don't stop. Don't stop. Because I didn't graduate from the Ateneo de Manila University. I had over 100 units from the Ateneo. Maraming salamat. I went to the ETIA program. I proceeded with my master's degree upon the encouragement of the great Helena Benitez. Sabi niya, huwag kang mapagod. Just go. Just go and learn. I didn't know what she saw. So after my master's degree, I proceeded to go for my doctoral degree. Ang kwento naman nun, guest ko sa Bottom Line, si Tita Liling Briones, former Secretary of Education, and I was looking for, what do I do for my doctoral degree? I didn't want to go into communications because, you know, I was in the communications field. So sabi ni Tita Liling Briones, try social development, and I did. And when Tita Helen learned about it, she said, that's the best choice. So Tita Helen kept on talking to me about home economics. Tita Helen kept on talking to me about patriotism. Tita Helen kept on talking to me about so many things that today when I look back, I said, Lord, I mean, what did I do to deserve conversations with the great Helena Benitez? So 3 powerful women who have influenced how I think, who I am, except for being late. They all said I talk too much. Lahat. Tita Conching, Tita Helen, and my nanay would say, you just talk too much. And that's the reason why, funny excuse, I got into communications. And to the students especially, what is communications? Simple lang yun. Exchange of ideas, exchange of information is communications. Natin pahirapan. Let's simplify it. What is communications? It's simply exchange of ideas. And specifically, I wanted to go into public speaking. I wanted to go into oratory. It was the old term for public speaking, oratory, which was considered the highest form of art, higher than music, than dance. Huwag akong gagagalitan ng mga artista. But oratory was best delivered in times of war, in times of chaos, in times of pandemics. Kaya may mga pagkakataon, in times of political turmoil. You know of the Gettysburg Address, for example. Abe Lincoln. 172 words delivered in 2 minutes. So if anybody tells you that a speech is supposed to be long, that's wrong. Jack Kennedy had 1,542 words in his inaugural, delivered in 14 minutes. A speech is simply a story, as Tita Vicky would say, which has a start, a middle, and a beginning. Sometimes it begins with the end and ends with the beginning. Sometimes it begins with the middle and ends with the beginning. Sometimes it begins with the ending and ends with the middle. It is your way of telling your story. Do not allow anybody to tell your story. It's for you to tell. It is your story. Okay, so I went into public speaking because I am a public speaker, because it is my core. I like speaking before a public. What is public speaking? It's speaking before a public. And a public can be 2, 3, 4, 5 people. It's speaking before a public. So I got into public speaking and I wanted to talk about public speaking. And what is interesting today is, Tito Boy, you know, it's hard. You know, in the United States, there is research. But I'm not sure if this is real. This can be urban legend, because I haven't seen the research, that there are more people afraid of public speaking than death. Okay? I don't wonder, because you talk about, bakit ba ako walang confidence? Bakit ba ako nininervyos? Bakit ba pag nandito na ako sa entablado, nakahawak na ng mikropono, nawawala na? I train beauty queens for the Q&A because that's part of the discipline of public speaking. Last night, I was training Hannah Arnolds, our representative to the Miss International. I trained Pia Wurtzbach. I trained Catriona Gray and most of the beauty queens of this country. So, ang public speaking was a field that I wanted to get into. Confidence What is confidence? It's hard to define that. But in public speaking, confidence is simply knowing that you can do what you want to do. Can I say that again? When you think you can do what you think you can do, that's confidence. It is not the absence of fear. It is not the absence of doubt. It is simply knowing that you can do what you think you can. That's confidence. I want to address this because this is a common problem among people who want to get into public speaking pero natatakot po ako, shy po ako, ay pinagtatawanan po ako. We'll talk about that later. And of course, when you talk about confidence, you talk about fear. You talk about anxiety. Sa mga klase namin sa public speaking, we require students to declare the classroom, the space, for example, as a no judgment space. You begin there. You have to say, I have no right to judge myself, and I have no right to judge anyone. That is important. Dahil kadalasan ang tumatawad, ang nag-judge sa ating mga sarili, tayo. We diminish, we demean our power to tell our stories. Hindi ko kaya, nakakatuwa, nakakatakot, hindi maganda ang buhok ko, hindi maganda ang sapato. I don't know what your hair has to do with public speaking. And there are just so many excuses. No judgment zone. Let me go to fear and anxiety. Yung takot, fear, again, is simply knowing that you're going to mess up. That's being fearful. Fear is saying, I'm going to do a speech today at the PWU, at the Philippine Women's University. Palagay ko hindi ko kakayanin. Palagay ko, like when you MC, magkakamali ako sa sasabihin ko. Nakakatakot, andun sila Boy Abunda, andun si Presidente Marco, Tita Vicky is there. Stop thinking that way. Okay, because that's fear. Fear is knowing and convincing yourself that something wrong is going to happen. Anxiety in public speaking is repeating it. Paulit-ulit na paulit-ulit, it becomes anxiety. So, nag-uumpisa ka doon sa hindi ko kaya, at sinasabi mo, hindi ko kaya, hindi ko kaya, hindi ko kaya, nangyayari tuloy. One of the techniques in public speaking is a power declaration. So before you go to center stage, you declare, I'm going to make them smile. I'm going to make them love me. I'm going to make them applaud. You smile when you say, magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. And it's with a certain confidence. It's with a certain strength that you say, I'm happy to be here. You declare that. You declare that. Hindi yung kung ano-ano ang iyong iniisip. Go to that center stage and saying, Lord, I'm going to do this well. I'm going to kill this. I'm going to make them like me without having to say it. That's a self-talk. Okay? So power declaration is important when you do public speaking. To public speakers, another tip is find your power balance. Ang tawag namin dyan ay power pose. Ang ibig sabihin nun, may mga tao na komportable magsalita na nakaganon. May mga tao naman, nandito ang weight. Magandang hapon po sa inyong lahat. May mga tao naman, nandito. Find that. There are no rules. May mga tao na okay sila pag may podium. Okay? There are no rules there. That's okay. May mga tao na naglalakad. Discover that. You know, a couple of years ago, 2017 or 2018, I keynoted the Asia Speakers Bureau in Singapore. Isa sa mga ginawa ko was, and it's terrifying to speak before the best speakers in Asia. It's terrifying. It's horrible. Alam niyo, Marco, ang requirement nila doon? The requirement for the speakers to be part of that convention, it was so exclusive, was you should have charged in your life as a speaker $20,000 US. It was terrifying Okay? When I went to Singapore to keynote that convention, I went to the stage the night before my speech. Talagang naglakad ako. I was walking around the stage, just feeling it. I wanted to know my stage. I wanted to befriend my stage. So I was alone. I was with an assistant, and I heard a voice. Excuse me, we don't allow people in the ballroom because the setup is ready for tomorrow morning. Paglingon ko, Pinoy, huwag naman, Tito Boy! Sabi ko, naman, palakarin mo naman ako dito. So it pays to be a Filipino. If people from Singapore are watching, we did this at the Shangri-La, Singapore. Okay, that was a Speakers Bureau conference of 2018. I hope I'm right, 2018. So it's good to know this stage. I know this stage. This is where I graduated. This is where I graduated with a master's degree in communications. So talk to your stage. Know that stage. Love that stage. Embrace that space. And that space should be a no judgment space. Okay. I was talking about fear and anxiety. Ang tawag niyan sa public speaking ay CA. Communication apprehension, or communicative or communicative apprehension. Ano ang iba't ibang klase ng fear? I want to talk about this. Ladies and gentlemen who are online, join us here. What are the kinds of fears? Number one, may tinatawag tayo na trait, anxiety. There are people who are born shy. Trait anxiety. There are people who are not inclined to initiate conversations. Mahihain ako. I'm an introvert. Pangalawa, may tinatawag tayong state anxiety. Ito yung external. Ito yung nakadepend sa validation. Nakadepend sa acceptance. Ito yung graded recitations. I have to perform well because I'm being graded. Number three, may tinatawag tayong scrutiny fear, which means it is a kind of fear that happens only because you know that you are being watched. So takot yun dahil you're being watched. May mga cures yun. What are the cures of, because yung communication apprehension dictates your frame of reference or your frames of references. Na parang, halimbawa, because you're shy or because you were embarrassed in a graded recitation or because you have a scrutiny fear, pag nagsasalita ka, what you put in your memory is, napahiya ako nung graded recitation, I was not ready, and people sneered, jeered, and mocked me, and that's the experience in your mind. That becomes a frame of reference. Or mahihain ako, tuwing sinasabi ng tatay na magsalita ako, hindi ako nakakapagsalita, niloloko ako ng mga kaibigan ko. Yung fear na yan affects that frame of reference. Pero ang mga cures, ito. Number one, you go to your core. You go to your core. You go to your story. You know, why is it important to go to your core? Because that core is yours. That core is your truth. That core is your story. Nobody knows that core better than you. To feel good about it, ako'y waray. Ako'y may ethnocentric causes pa yan. Bisaya, yung E nagiging I, yung O nagiging U. Ayoko magsalita, baka matapilok ang dila ko, pagtatawanan ako. Change that frame of reference. Okay, so you go to your core. Be at peace with the fact that you were born in Borongan, Eastern Samar. Matigas ang Tagalog ko, matigas ang dila ko. And that's not a crime. You are okay. Okay, you go to your core, you go to your story. Kanina yung sinabi ni Maya Angelou, she has another line that goes, I come as one, I stand as 10,000. I am here on stage. I come as one, I stand as 10,000, which simply means that I stand on the shoulders of my ancestors. I stand on the shoulders of Nanay, of Tatay. I'm not alone on stage. They're here with me, cheering me, saying, boy, do it. Share what you know. Because that's good. You're never, never, never alone, as Angelo would say. So go to that core. Go to that story. Be proud of that story. That's the number one cure. Number two cure is change that frame of reference. Instead of remembering how embarrassed you were during a graded recitation, find something in your past that makes you smile. Isang beses, I was asked to deliver a poem, and it was a short poem. And I can remember people applauding. Put that in your mind. Put that in your mind. That becomes your frame of reference. Because number three, science tells us that you can change your mindset. You can actually change your mind. Does it happen overnight? No. Does it happen tomorrow? No. But you have to do it over and over and over until you are connected to that story, to that core, until you change that frame of reference, until you're at peace with who you are, until you say, I am okay. You get me? So may gamot yung communication apprehension. And that's another thing, the ethnocentric issues of Batanggenyo ako, Waray ako. That's fine. That's not a problem. That's not a problem. You can change your mindset and you can change my mind. Very short story. I'll make this quick. When I was starting my television career, prior to my television career, I was a high profile, I'm not afraid to say this, I was a high profile public relations guy. I was a high profile talent manager. I was representing the biggest names in the entertainment industry. I didn't need to go on television actually for a living. One of my closest friends, who's now one of the biggest names in the industry, inupo ko, sat me down and said, boy, let's talk. Sabi ko, okay, what do you want to tell me? Alam mo, kung ako sa'yo, don't do on-cam job. Do not be a television host. Sabi ko, bakit? Sabi niya, because one day you're going to head your marketing company. One day you're going to be president of your advertising company. Sabi ko talaga, I just want to try. Sabi ko, ano bang bumabagabag? What's bothering you? Why don't you want me to try television? He gave me 3 reasons. Well-meaning ito, mahal ako, at mahal ko ang taong ito. Number 1, he said, hindi ka masyado kagandahan. That I was not beautiful enough. Sabi ko sa kaibigan ko, kung hindi mo nakikita ang ganda ko, may problema ka. Oh, if you can't see my beauty, you have a problem. Pero kadalasan, we are being defined by friends, by people who love us. Hindi ka masyado maganda, hindi ka pwede, dito ka lang. These are familiar lines. You're counted out even before you start. You count it out even before you start. That's number 1. Number 2, sabi sa akin ng aking kaibigan, yung waray. Lalabas at lalabas ang punto mo. Pag nag-English ka, nag-Tagalog ka, I worry about you because you're too good for television. You can be in advertising. Inuulit-ulit niya yun. Number 3, sabi niya, because you're gay. During that time, gays are supposed to be comedians. Pag ang leading lady and leading man are in a romantic scene, the best friend who happens to be gay comes into the picture, stumbles, falls, and people laugh. Pero I told my friends, sabi ko, why would these points stop me from exploring television? Ang pagkakamali niya is because when I'm told to go right, I go left. And I went to television. And the rest is history. I wish I had more time. I was telling Marco, one time, I'd like to be able to do, master classes in public speaking, in hosting, where I can interact with students. I want to be able to do exercises with you. Because, lalo na itong henerasyon na ito, hirap na hirap tayo mag-focus. Hirap na hirap tayo mag-focus. Just one short exercise. Who wants to do an exercise? Come here. Who wants to do an exercise? You will remember this moment. Believe me, one day you're going to be a superstar. If you come on stage, you're going to be the best broadcaster in the world. Come here, Iha. Come here. Kayo, halika. one day you are going to be your host TV Patrol. Ikaw 24 oras. Thank you very much. Thank you guys. Okay. Very good. That's the spirit. What's your name?
Eric po.
Eric,
Ashley.
Ashley.
Marjulian Candida po. Shello.
Kirsten po.
Wow. Okay, Shello and Christine. Okay. We have problems with focusing, di ba? Dahil sa ingay. Dahil sa ingay ng mundong ito. Okay. Your name again?
Eric.
Eric. Eric, can we have another mic, please? Eric. There. Can you try that?
Hello.
Okay, there. Hello. Eric, watch me. Eric, Howareyou question mark. Answer me by spelling your answer.
IMOKAY.
Okay. I am okay. What happened? When I was spelling the question, Eric did nothing but just listen to me. H-O-W. Why was that important? Because Eric was in the moment. If he missed out on a letter, he wouldn't understand the question. You got a point? That's how you focus. Alam mo, Eric, ang mga beauty queens, parate, di ba, pag nasa entablado, when it's their turn to answer the question, sila, halimbawa, 10 finalists or semi-finalists, lahat yan, pag tinatanong ang nasa center stage, lahat nila sinasagot ang mga questions. Subukan ko, okay, what makes you, etc. What happens there is you're answering questions that do not belong to you, when in fact, you just have to smile until you're asked your questions. And when you're asked your question, it's just the question and yourself. You're not thinking about what happened before, and you're not talking about how you're going to answer it. You're just listening. You are in the moment. Did you get it?
Yes po.
That's very important. Give the mic. Okay. Another exercise is, but did you get it? Spell a question, I'll answer you by spelling it.
WHOAREYOU.
A B O L D S-T-A-R. A bold star. So when you guys are together and you want to exercise, I like this. Can you give me more resonance of the mic? Okay. When you do exercises, ang tawag namin dito, spell talk. Okay? Spell talk. Spell words. You focus. You're not thinking about, ano ba yung nangyari dati? Ano ba ang, how do I answer this question? You're not anxious. You're just listening. There's another exercise. What's your name again?
Marjulian. Marjulian. Marjulian.
Okay, all right. Mark?
Marjulian. Mar na lang po. Mar na lang.
Mar na lang. Mar na lang. Okay. Mar, you know, some people would say, how do they do that on television? Yung reporting, yung, or Tito Boy, how do you cure a mental block? Kasi may magkakataon that, you know, you're overwhelmed by your nerves. You can be overwhelmed by nerves and you just lose it. This is one of the techniques, and we call this make sense. Just use your senses. Just use your senses. What are your senses, Mar? Senso, mata?
Yes po. Ear.
Pandinig?
Ears. Touch.
Pang-smell?
Nose.
Touch? What you feel?
Face.
Okay. You know, all you have here, Mar, halimbawa ikay nagre-report para sa TV news. Huwag na lang patrol, hindi atin yun. TV news. Sabihin mo sa amin kung nasaan ka, sabihin mo kung anong nakikita mo, sabihin mo kung ano ang naaamoy mo kung meron, sabihin mo kung ano ang nararanasan ng mga senses mo, and then end it kung ano ang nararamdaman mo. Sige nga, subukan mo lang.
I am here at Tagalog po English.
I'm sorry?
English or Tagalog?
Ay, kahit ano, pwede. Alam mo si Leo, he's one of the best. You know, in my workshop, si Dean Leo, he takes care of my English refreshers courses. And Leo and I are in agreement that today, among linguists, the most important element is understandability. Sorry to the English teachers, or all English teachers, more than syntax, grammar, etc. So we always say, try to be understood. Ang iba niyan susunod niya. So you can speak in your language of convenience.
Thank you.
Tagalog, Taglish is fine by me. Okay? Go ahead.
So, nandito ako sa Benitez Hall na Talk with Boy Abunda at nakikita ko ngayon na nanonood ang maraming tao sa akin at ang pakiramdam ko ngayon ay masaya at the same time ay kinakabahan pero nandito pa rin yung overwhelm na nanonood yung lahat ng tao sa akin at nakikinig at nakatingin lahat ng tao pero alam ko na nakikinig sila and siguro nararamdaman ko yung aircon. Sobrang lamig, pero joke lang yun. Pero ayun po, maganda yung paligid kasi sobrang peaceful. So yun lang po.
Maraming salamat. That's how you begin. Mar, alam niyo yung hahawakan ko lang ang kamay mo. Alam niyo, in reporting, simple lang yon. Mga kaibigan, if we were to polish that, ako po si Mar, nandito po ako sa Conrado Benitez Hall, bahagi ng talk ni Boy Abunda. Maraming tao, nakikinig ho sila sa akin ngayon, at maraming may papel, may nagsusulat, iba't iba, may mga bisita ho tayo galing abroad, at masaya po ang ating kinaroroonan. Medyo malamig po, tinatamaan ho ako ng aircon, pero ang pakiramdam ko po ay napakasaya dahil marami po akong natututunan. Ito po si Mar mula sa Philippine Women's University, back to the studio. Ganun lang ang reporting. Use your senses. Halimbawa, nagsasalita ka, nawala ka, nakalimutan, ay gamitin mo. Pumasok ko ang dalawa dito and you're just inspiring me. Gamitin mo. Buy your time hanggat makabalik ka. That's a technique. Totoo yun. Dahil marami ang nakakalimot. Halimbawa, how do you feel? You know, ito palang pakiramdam ng hindi mo alam ang sasabihin. But I know I was supposed to say something. But I can see it in your eyes that you're just so happy that I forgot until you get to where you want to be. Maraming salamat. Give the mic to the next one. Okay. What's your name again?
Shello.
Okay. This is an exercise that I'd like you guys to do, lalo na sa mga klase. Here, kayong dalawa.
Shello.
Shello and?
Kirsten po.
Kristen.
Pababae pa yung name ko po.
Okay. Kristen. Kristen and
Shello.
Shello. Okay. You use this exercise because you can do this anywhere. Instinct is very important. Meron kaming tinatawag na visceral talking. Ang visceral, ibig sabihin, gut talking, hindi nag-iisip. Dito sa ating mundo, we have been wired to be politically correct all the time. Kailangan magustuhan yung sinasabi ko. Kailangan gusto nila ang sinasabi ko. Kailangan maganda ang pagkasabi ko. Hindi. Just go to your instinct. Halimbawa, when I say red, what comes to mind? Go.
Apple.
When I say black, what goes to mind?
Shadow.
Oh, when you say you're buying time. Just do it. Just do it. Shadow. When I say black, what comes to mind?
Hair.
Hair. Nakikita nyo? Ang black ay shadow. Ang black ay hair. That's how unique each one of us is. So, respect that instinct. Respect that instinct. Pag sinabi ko, halimbawa na PWU, what comes to mind?
Quality education.
Okay. Even if you waited for some seconds, I will take it. Quality education. When I say kalsada, what comes to mind?
Traffic.
See, it's getting there. If you can do this practice, halimbawa, doon sa labas, as friends, let's go to our instinct exercise. As opposed to the rationality exercise, which is the state of being logical and reasonable. So pag sinabi kong pula think about it at bakit, what do you want to say? Bigyan mo ng dahilan kung bakit pula, what comes to mind, and why.
The red part of the Philippine flag. Because
Dahil?
it states the the bravery of the Filipino during the war.
Rainbow. What comes to mind at bakit? Be reasonable, be logical.
LGBT po.
Dahil?
Dahil lahat ng mga gay and lesbian ay may karapatan at may malayan silang future po.
Okay. So, ang pagkakaiba ng instinct is bug. You know, rationality exercise is, it is because. You get a point? How do you apply that? How do you apply that to public speaking? Give me a word. Any word.
Social.
I had difficulty in the beginning when I was new in Manila because I was told that I had to be social. I got to the Ateneo and I was afraid. And every time I'm afraid, I lose it. Hindi ako klaro magdesisyon dahil nangingibabaw ang inseguridad ko. Marami akong inseguridad. Naroon na yung hindi matangos ang aking ilong, hindi ako mayaman, hindi ako kasing galing ng iba. Kasi ang iba naman ay iba rin ang kanilang pananaw sa kanilang sarili. When you talk about yourself, you talk about your story. It's dugtungan. You don't stop until your teacher says, stop. And you can actually just react to what you're saying. You can just react to what you're saying using, again, your story, using your core. And your story includes your experiences, what you learned from teachers. Malawak yun. I hope we can do more exercises and ang premyo nyo ay manggagaling kay Marivic mamaya. Maraming salamat. Palakpakan po natin sila.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I'm proud of these students. Ang gagaling. Ang gagaling. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay. Let me go to another topic very quickly because earlier I talked about being the recipient of the kindness, or better yet, the compassion of many people, including Tita Helen, my nanay, Tita Vicky, and Susie, and many other people. I've been the beneficiary of the kindness of people. There's a line of Blanche Dubois from Streetcar Named Desire. Now, I wanted to talk about this because, lalo na ngayon, Dr. Stephen Chekyak, I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly, a Harvard scholar. He is an intensivist, meaning he's a he's a doctor that specializes in intensive care. His name is Dr. Stephen Chekyak, Harvard. He did a study, at ang kanyang nadiskubre, ngayon sa ating mundo, meron tayong compassion crisis. And we have an epidemic of burnt out. Compassion crisis. Compassion, let's define compassion. Compassion is an emotional feeling towards pain and suffering involving the desire to help. Sa amin, sa social development, ang ibang term yan ay co-feeling. Ang pagkakaiba ng compassion sa empathy at sympathy is that sympathy and empathy cover I feel you, I understand you. Compassion takes it forward with I want to take action. Sabi ni Dr. Stephen, ang mundo ngayon, the world, has a compassion crisis. He's a doctor and he's a teacher. Sinasabi niya, all it takes to save a life sometimes is 40 seconds of compassion. Yun ang title ng kanyang, actually he did TED. 40 seconds of compassion. Ang kwento niya, there was an accident in Europe. 2 buses collided. 6 died, 56 survived. 5 years later, he did extensive research on the survivors. Ang tanong, what do you remember about the accident? There were 2 things. One was predictable because they said, I cannot forget the pain, the physical pain. The second one was the lack of compassion in the hospitals where they were brought. And then he applied that to himself as a teacher in relations to his students. Ang nadiskubre niya is that his research, I think, was done in 2013, Harvard. Ang sabi niya, 56% of people surveyed said, I don't have compassion. I don't want to practice compassion because I'm too busy for it. I'm too busy for it. I'm a doctor, I'm a teacher, I'll do what I'm supposed to do. But don't expect me to be compassionate. Number 2, he had enough evidence to say that compassion can be learned. There was preponderance of evidence that pointed to the fact that compassion can be learned. Number 3, students learned easier and better, and patients healed faster with doctors practicing compassion. Number 5, people who practiced with compassion, who taught with compassion, were less anxious and less stressed, and that with compassion, medical educational cost can go lower. And what is that line? What is that 40 seconds of compassion? Sa ospital, sabi ni Dr. Steven, all you have to say is, and he did this with a patient who was going to be told at that very moment that he had cancer. I know you will be going through tough times, but you and I will be in this together. In not even 40 seconds. Just say that over and over. I know you're having difficulty learning this subject, but I will journey with you. That's compassion. And vice versa. Students can say, Sir, alam namin, medyo may problema ka sa pamilya mo, pero naiintindihan ka namin. That's how he looks at the world now. Why did I want to talk about this? Because we need a lot of compassion in this world today. We need to look at each other in a way that can make this world a better place. We're going through rough times, lalo na after, during. I mean, the pandemic is not done, it's not over. It's not over. Bold stars drink water. Nung pandemic, ang dami nating natutunan. And I think one of the most important lessons we learned, ako parati kong binabalikan si Bill Gates. Sinabi niyang, during the pandemic, we had to contend with our finitude. In simple words, during the pandemic, we all learned na lahat tayo mamamatay. And the choice as to whether you want to be kind or not, to be compassionate or not, is yours. I choose to be kind. It's a personal choice. Ang nangyari pa, I'm talking about compassion, I'm talking about the learnings, the lessons we got from the pandemic. Halimbawa, sa neighborhood, I stay in a village, a small village, where I've stayed for like 24 years. Hindi ko kilala yung mga katabing bahay, hindi ko kilala yung katapat na bahay because I enjoyed the routine of going home from work, sleeping, staying in the house, smiling at my neighbors, not knowing who they were, who they are. Pandemic changed that. We started to know their names. We started to walk with them around the village. We started to tell stories. We started to get to know each other. We started to be kinder with each other. We started to be a community. We started to become friends. And now we are families. Nagbibigayan na ng ulam. And if we take that lesson from the pandemic and we push it forward, can you imagine what a better world this is? Ito yung doktor ako ng social development. Parati nilang sinasabi, ano bang social development? Apply that to the pandemic. Social development is about processes of change that lead to development of the human well-being, social institutions, and social organizations, and social relations that are sustainable and compatible with democratic governance and social justice. United Nations Institute of Research. Ang haba ng definition ng social development. Simply, what does it mean? Change that can make us better people. Better people who can create a better world. Who are you? You're a student. Who am I? I am a teacher. I'm a talk show host. Do the best of who you are. Do the best of what you can do. And you're practicing the best in social development. And that's what we need today. People who can make this world a better place. You know, I cannot forget when one of my neighbors, he's an architect, in a conversation during COVID, late 2020, came to the house and said, "Boy, I know what you and I are going through. Hindi natin alam nung 2020 anong mangyayari, matatapos ba ito, and people were just collapsing around all of us. Sabi niya, if you need to talk with someone, I'm just here. We have this common experience, and I'm literally just a stone's throw away from your house." Say that. Practice compassion. Practice compassion. And yun lang naman ang gusto natin. We just want a better world. I'm tempted to tell you the story of, but you know, I'll be talking about just a last story about how important it is to live now and how it is important to go for transformative lives, transformative leadership, transformative citizenship. Ang transformative leaders are actually leaders who transcend, you know, institutional goals and allow their followers to be leaders themselves. There's a story, this is a Confucian story. Kwento ng isang hari, there was a king who had a very important question, who had one of the most important questions, and that was, sino ang pinaka-importanteng tao sa mundo? Who is the most important person of the world? And what is the most important thing you can do to that person, and when do you do that? So, pinatawag niya ang lahat ng kanyang council sa palasyo. At tinanong niya, who is the most important person? Nobody could answer. So, bago matapos ang araw, he just like a poor man, a beggar, and started on a journey to the forest. Ginabi siya. It was dark, and he saw a small hut where an old man lived. He went there and said, "Old man, can I stay for the night? It's late. It's dangerous. I don't know what's going to happen. May I stay in your house?" And the old man said, "Yes, come in. I have an extra room upstairs, and you can rest for the night." In the middle of the night, narinig nung hari na may ingay, na parang may mga taong tumatakbo. And he overheard the conversation of the old man and the men. And the men were begging the old man for the old man to hide them because thugs, robbers were running after them. Sabi ng old man, "Hide here." Couple of minutes later, dumating yung mga magnanakaw. Tinanong yung old man, "Did you see men pass you this way, etc.?" And the old man said, "No." The robbers proceeded to run away. After a couple of minutes, the men thanked the old man and said, "Maraming salamat. We will proceed with our journey." The next morning, the king, over breakfast, and the old man did a conversation. And sabi ng hari, "Old man, did you realize that you put your life on danger, in danger, because you didn't know these men? They could have hurt you." And the old man said, "The most important person in the world is the person in front of you. And the most important thing you can do to that person is to help him. When? Now." Ang ganda lang pakinggan ng kwento because the king, of course, went back to the palace and said, "I have the answers to my questions." And I'm going to say this in conclusion because now is all we have. The past is gone. The future is not even real. The future is not even real. What is real is us now. Sa lahat ng sinabi ko ngayon in this talk from the heart, I didn't know whether it was going to be an academic lecture or a talk from the heart, but I decided to combine. With everything that I said, with all the stories that I shared with you, it brings me back to the most fundamental of all. No chaos, no, in social development we would say, no disequilibrium, no cruelty can match the power of love. Nothing can match the power of love. So, if there are things that I want you to remember today, it is love God, love thy neighbor, and love yourself. When? Now. Because tomorrow is never promised. As St. John of the Cross would say, and I conclude this with the inspiring words of St. John, in the evening of life, we will all be judged on love alone. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Boy Abunda. That was a very riveting talk. Walang makaalis, walang makatayo. Even Sir Marco couldn't leave. Okay, thank you so much. And also, the talk was really mula umpisa from the introduction of Vicky to his last, to when he said thank you. Everything really is a testament to the core values of the university, which I think this institution wants every student, every graduate to embody. And that includes holistic character formation, ethical professionalism, and solidarity in family, and even giving back and service to country. So thank you so much. And also at the same time, yung talk niya really just goes to prove that education is not just within the four walls of the classroom. It is in every story actually. And so keep in mind, every story has a lesson to teach. Okay, so at this point, we will not have any more the question and answer portion because we had an activity earlier. So if you have any questions or comments, just try to reach out to the Philippine Women's University Foundation. Try to reach out and ask your comments, your thoughts, your questions, and we will try to throw them to Mr. Boy Abunda. Okay? And at this point, we want to recognize our guest speaker, Mr. Boy Abunda, for his generosity in sharing with us his time, his talents, and all his superb, wonderful stories. It was truly fascinating, grabe. And so I'd like to call in Miss Doctora Vivian Milian Talisayon, and Evie Havalera to present Mr. Boy Abunda the Certificate of Appreciation.
I'll just read the side. Thank you so much, Dr. Boy. BWU Alumni Foundation Incorporated awards this plaque of appreciation to Eugenio Boy R. Abunda, PhD, for the inspiring message entitled A Talk from the Heart. The fourth lecture in the 22nd Outstanding Alumni Lecture Series for the PWU community, alumni, deans, faculty, and student representatives, given this 26th day of November 2022 at the Conrado Benitez Hall, PWU, Taft Avenue, Manila. Signed, yours truly, Chair Sigevamor Castañeda Havalera, and of course, our President, Vivian Milan Talisayan. Thank you so much. We were inspired.
Yes. Our distinguished lecturer, Dr. Eugenio Boy Abunda, PWU officials who may still be around, representing the Benitez family, Miss Patty, right? Katina, yes. Faculty and staff who are with us, fellow Philomanians, and our dear students. On behalf of the PWU Alumni Foundation, thank you for joining us this afternoon in our fourth quarterly lecture this year, featuring outstanding alumni of PWU. We thank President Marco for allowing us to use today the PWU facilities like this Conrado Benitez Hall. We wish to thank also the multimedia team, the alumni office, headed by Director Ruth Peñano, and the scholarship committee led by Mrs. Mirasol, and the nursing students who are with us here. Boy shared with us this afternoon his expertise and experiences in his work, even his life stories. So many stories that we heard. He spoke from the heart, don't you agree? Right? We were touched so many times by his about 20 stories perhaps? No? So I lost count of them. I was trying to count them at the start. But the story, one touching story after another. Right? Indeed, he showed the secret of his good rapport in his celebrity interviews and also his success in life. We know that our sincerity in talking from our heart will gain us new friends every day and will help nurses relate well to their patients. We hope you will continue to participate in our quarterly lectures in 2023, held on the last Saturday of the last month of each quarter. See you all again via Zoom next year. Our first quarterly lecture is on March 25. Please reserve the date in your calendar. Okay, may I repeat? March 25. Usually we have it in the morning, 9 to 11, via Zoom. Right?
But Dr. Boyabunda wanted really a heart-to-heart talk with us, and I can see why. No? And I think we were touched in more ways than one. Better than if we just listened to him via Zoom. Now, there's nothing like a face-to-face session. Is that right? So that was a very good decision on the part of Dr. Abunda. So to everyone then, because we're past 4 o'clock, may I be the first to greet you a most blessed Christmas and a joyful New Year. Stay safe and happy. Maraming salamat po sa inyong lahat.
So before we finally close, some thank yous are still in order. I'd like to thank also the, of course, members of the Alumni Foundation for making all this happen, for bringing all this together, for their tireless efforts in arranging everything that you have experienced today. Thanks also, a special thanks also to Ruth Peñano for her help, not just for this lecture, but even the past lectures, especially those that we did on Zoom, which was kind of technical and difficult for us. So anyway, thank you again. This is definitely an afternoon well spent. Paano ba yan, Sir Boyabunda, bitin? Dapat may part 2. So anyway, we leave that to the organizers. And before I say thank you, once again, I'm not sure, I think I forgot to introduce myself earlier. Anyway, I'm Audrey Mendoza Cabrera, and good afternoon, and thank you. Have a great day, everyone. Please join us in singing our university hymn. Okay, thank you, and stay tuned for all the announcements for our future lectures. Thank you once again. Merry Christmas, everyone.